We start our meetings now with our land acknowledgement. So Nevada now acknowledges and honors the indigenous communities of this region and recognizes that we are on the traditional homelands of the Nuwauvi Southern Paiute people. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to study, learn, work, and be in community with this land. We encourage everyone in this space to engage in continued learning about the indigenous peoples who work and live on this land since time immemorial, including the Las Vegas Paiute tribe and the Moaba Band of Paiutes, and about the historical and present realities of colonialism. Okay, I'll turn it over to you, Sue.
It's me. It's me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. I know it's unusual. It's not Sunday. It's Monday. But thank you for joining us. I am Sue Birch. I am the co-executive director of Nevada Now with Jerry Burton. We're partners. I'll introduce the rest of our board. You just met Eva Love. She's our director of, I got to read my notes, membership and volunteer coordinator. Michelle Maese is our director of outreach. Laura Campbell is our director of action. Sarah Evans is our director of fundraising. Madalena Robertson, I'll get it right one day, is our director of technology and media and does all our graphics for our meetings and website, and we can't live without her. Lenoring Briley is our treasurer. Tricia Methner is our secretary, and we are very pleased to announce a new addition to our board. Yes, Samantha Glover has now joined the Nevada Now board as our director of youth outreach. So we're very pleased to have you, Samantha, and congratulations. So, okay, there's that. A little bit of business. I'm getting tangled up in cords, sorry.
I was going to say congratulations to us, but anyway, thank you, Samantha.
Yes, we're oh, you don't have to thank us, Samantha. Come on, it was inevitable. Couple of announcements. We are going to have a Women's History Month meeting on March 20th. We're still working out the details, so look for any post on that. We'll get some information out on that. On March 27th, the Nevada Now PAC is going to have its fundraiser, Meet the Candidates. We're very excited about that one. Tickets are $25, and I think Madalena is putting the info in the chat. So far, we have confirmed Attorney General Ford, Secretary of State candidate Cisco Aguilar, Controller candidate Ellen Spiegel, Clark County District Attorney candidate Ozzie Fumo, North Las Vegas Mayor candidate Pat Spearman, and we just found out this evening that there's maybe a slight chance that if schedules allow, the governor may appear. So we're crossing our fingers on that one. Today, the PAC, the Nevada Now PAC, officially did some early endorsements for the governor, the attorney general, secretary of state, controller, the Clark County DA, and of course, Pat Spearman for North Las Vegas mayor. Oh, and Zach Conan for treasurer. That's an ongoing process for the PAC. We'll keep you posted as we move forward. It's just going to be fluid. We're going to be doing it all the time. So with that being said, we are starting to look for volunteers to do phone banking, texting, canvassing. So I think Madalena will put I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat at the same time. It's old habits. We're going to be looking for volunteers. Madalena, I think you're going to put in the chat how they can contact us to volunteer. And with that, I'm going to move on to our program. If you do have questions for any of our guests this evening or questions for any of us on the board, yeah, please put them in the chat. I promise I'll stop reading them right now.
So let's just answer this one question.
Okay.
Is this fundraiser for the candidates that are going to be in attendance? It's for all the candidates that we endorse, right?
We've got a very ambitious plan for endorsements going from the top all the way to the bottom. We're going to do our best. I don't know, Jerry, do you want to jump in on here a little bit?
Well, I don't know. It's not necessarily just candidates that we've endorsed. It's kind of open to other. Yeah. So far, it's candidates that we've endorsed that have said they're coming. We put out just the word that, if you're a judicial candidate and we haven't got to that point yet, we're accepting people just to come and have a minute to talk to, say something, and then mingle and bring their literature for a table, and pretty open.
But the question is this a fundraiser for the candidates that are going to be in attendance? So the fundraiser
for the Nevada Now PAC, which gives all of the money to our endorsed candidates. Right. So we don't use that money for us, it goes to candidates. Does that answer it, you think?
And isn't it the case that any candidate, Democratic or any candidate that's a feminist can come to this event? Yeah. Yes, any candidate can come to this event.
Any candidate, yes.
But the money raised is for the PAC. Yes.
Yes. Getting some confusion there. Are we all good on that now? Okay. So as has been said thank you, Leilani. As been said in many meetings, I do wear a number of hats, and one of my hats is the chair of our Racial Justice Committee, and we are very pleased to have some amazing women here this evening to talk about racial justice and the law. First, you met her just now as Michelle Maese, one of our Nevada Now board members, but I am very pleased to say she is also the president-elect for SEIU Local 1107, and we congratulate her on that, and we are very, very proud of her. Michelle is the first African-American president of SEIU Local 1107, and she's my partner on this committee. So I love you, Michelle. We also have Leslie Turner, co-director of Mass Liberation Project Nevada, and we are honored to be working with Leslie and Mass Lib for a Dignity for Incarcerated Women bill to work on period poverty and health care in Nevada jails and prisons. So welcome, Leslie. We also have Judge Karen Bennett Herron. She was first appointed to the bench in 2002. Yeah, 2002. The first black woman ever appointed to the state's justice system at any level, and the longest sitting black justice. Sadly, though, she is retiring this year, but we're just very glad she could make some time for us this evening. And finally, Judge Belinda T. Harris. She grew up in North Las Vegas and was elected to serve as Justice of the Peace in 2020 in North Las Vegas. She was the first black judge to serve North Las Vegas, which is a majority minority community. So I just want to welcome all of you and thank you for being here. And now I'm going to turn it over to my partner, Michelle.
That was awesome, Sue. Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our Black History Night panel. It's going to be a good one. So we're so excited to have everybody here. Thank you, Sue, for the congratulations. I'm really excited. I am not speaking tonight, but I definitely wanted to introduce our first speaker again, like Sue just said, and she is a wonderful, wonderful breath of fresh air who I met about 2.5 years ago, and you can't keep me away from her. Belinda is everything that we have set out for judges to be in our state of Nevada. She just radiates brilliancy every time we talk, every time I see her. Nothing but compliments from the bench. Department 3 is very lucky to have her. We are very excited to have her with us today. Yes, BTH all day, every day. That's what we say. So we are very excited to have her. And today we just want to hear from her regarding her experience as a first African-American judge in the seat, what it took for her to run, some of the difficulties that she's had during the running season, and to really talk about the truth. We talk about the truth here. I mean, I know we talk about it out in the open, but we absolutely talk about the truth. We get down with the reality here because it's not always easy for minorities, for women, for men and minorities also. So we really want to talk about that. We want to talk about, how we can support each other. And then we want to see, what she has done thus far and what she plans to do in the future. So take it away, Queen. You're up.
I'm up. Hello, everybody. I'm Belinda T. Harris, BTH. I'm your Justice of the Peace in North Las Vegas Justice Court Department 3. I will be sipping water because recently I lost my voice and I'm just regaining it. So just bear with me. Also, if I pause, I have to pick up the phone because I am on call because I'm still working at this very moment. So those are just a few caveats. As you know, I ran my election in 2020 in the midst of a pandemic. When I ran my campaign, I was a career public defender. So most of the times in the judiciary, career public defenders in general do not go to the bench. They don't run for office. They don't get appointed for office. We have a Democratic governor, Governor Sisolak, and I don't think that he has appointed one public defender to the bench. Even though his daughter is a public defender, I don't think he's appointed one public defender to the bench, even though they have been very qualified, very able. Their applications were glowing. It just didn't happen. We just got a new nominee, I'm sure all of you know, who is being nominated for a Supreme Court justice. And one of the highlights that everybody's talking about is that she's a public defender and she's actually tried a case, which is more than any other justice has done, okay? They just never have tried cases. They have never represented people. They have never dealt with the person in which you are making rules, laws, and judgment for. And I think that there's a lot to be said when you are representing a person because you are hearing from that person, their experience, the consequences, the collateral sanctions that will happen from a ruling. And this is for all my judicial candidates and all my assembly people, senators, et cetera, because the decisions that you are making are really affecting everyday people. And I think that sometimes we lose connections with that. We get disconnected because we all are in a place of privilege. All of us on this call are on a place of privilege. And sometimes we lose that focus. So that's just one point. So when I ran, one of the things that people told me was, I had to tone down that I was a public defender, right? Because, oh my God, how can you represent those people? Mind you, I was a public defender and I went to a HBCU when it wasn't cool, right? I know right now there is a movement / moment that's going forward and these things are being championed and looked upon and it's really cool. But back when I was doing it, it wasn't cool. People didn't like that. They didn't want you to go to the HBCU and say, I went to Howard and I'm proud to be Black. That was not cool. And it definitely was not cool to be a public defender representing, quote unquote, those people, right? But I never unwavered from who I was. In the midst of my campaign, which most of you probably know, civil unrest broke out. And when civil unrest broke out, I decided myself that I had to be a part of that because I knew what I stood for and I wanted to be on the right side of history. There were many people, some elected officials, some of my friends, some of my colleagues who told me you cannot get involved in that because you have your name on the ballot to be an elected official and that could affect you actually getting elected. Well, I've always said if I was a one-time judge and I was one and done and I've done the right thing, I'm fine with that. I'm not here for the title. I'm here for the work. And so I took to the streets and I got arrested. And when I got arrested, there was a lot of blowback from me being out there, being a candidate, being a Black woman, being a public defender. There was a lot of blowback. And at some point, I felt like there were a lot of, as I would call them, toothless tigers, because there were a lot of people who shied away from me, who did not have my back, who did not support me, who basically left me to myself. Leslie Turner is on this call. She was always there. I don't know. I call her KBH the Great. That's Judge Karen Bennett. I call her KBH the Great. I don't see her, but I think she'll be on here if she's not. She's always been there. And there are many of my childhood friends who are my sisters who are on this call right now, who have known me since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. All these individuals never unwavered in their support. And they are the people, Black women, who actually pulled me over the finish line. They pushed me and pulled me over the finish line to keep doing what I was doing. So it definitely was an experience, but my experience is that every day because I identify as a Black woman. I live my life as a Black woman, and my initials stand for bold, tough, and honest. And that's truly how I live my life. So me running an election and a campaign was no different than me being in court, you know, representing someone who the public has so many comments to say, who is convicted in the eyes of the public before they even have a trial and or jury, anything like that. So it was definitely a rough time. Back to KBH the Great, I just want to give her kudos because she has been on the bench for about 20 years and she has done things that were unpopular in the public's eye and held it down for all of us for a very long time. She has never received the police endorsement. She's never received the district attorney's endorsement the whole time that she's been on the bench. I think that she interviewed with them one time and it was not a good fit for either party and didn't go back. That says a lot about a candidate who is not trying to be part of individuals or organizations that will be appearing before them and coming before them that have a lot of power. That says a lot for a person to be able to do that when they're the only person doing that. So I get my strength from her. I'm definitely standing on the shoulders of giants. That's all I'm going to say right now because I do want this to be an honest conversation and very candid. So after the talk, I would like to take questions to know if there's something that anybody wants to know that they could help or be better or something of that nature, because I know you all have heard my story a million times, but I'll just leave it there. The fact of the matter is you have to be who you have to be, and sometimes it's unpopular. That's it.
Thank you so much. Anybody have questions?
Eva, any questions in the chat for
You can save them to the end too.
Yeah. I think we have a bit of a delay with Judge Bennett Herron.
Okay, we're going to go to Leslie if Jerry wants to go.
Yeah. Leslie Turner, I know you're there.
Hello, everybody.
Leslie, I'm just going to let you be Leslie.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm
Oh,
always
wait,
gonna
hold
be me, regardless.
Leslie, there was
so
one
thank
question
you.
in the.
We'll get it, Michelle.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
Someone had a question. I can pause.
I can't find it. Oh, it says, what happened to the arrest charge dropped? That's Virginia?
It was dropped.
Okay.
All
I
right,
apologize, Leslie. Go ahead.
All right, Leslie.
That's okay. So hello, everybody. And I apologize for my lighting. I tried to fix it, but you know, it's just dark in my house, I guess. So I just first want to introduce myself for those that may not know me, and also just give a disclaimer that I do have a cough drop in my mouth. I have a little cough that I'm trying to get over. So you might, you know, see me sucking on it. I apologize for that too, but here we are. So I am Leslie Turner. I am the co-director of the Mass Liberation Project, which we are going into our 6th year. We started off as a program incubated at Plan, and you know, shout out Plan, shout out Laura for really just helping execute the vision of kind of Black work, Black-led organizations being autonomous. So I'm gonna kind of shift gears a little bit. Normally in these type of discussions, I always, oh, hey, Laura, I didn't know you was on here. Hey. First of all, I just want to also shout out Belinda for really just always aligning with the community, always lifting up the voices of people who are directly impacted on the ground, and just constantly just being in our corner, even when it's difficult. Even when, campaigns and stuff are on the line, you still are out there with the people. So I just wanted to big up Belinda as well. So just a little bit about the Mass Liberation Project. We are an organization that's rooted in abolition, meaning that we really have to, at the same time that we're dismantling systems and we're doing policy work, where, at the legislative session, we're bringing directly impacted people to the Capitol. We are decarcerating jails and prisons. We're, actively working through participatory defense to get people out. We are posting bails for Black mamas. We are just really in the mud. We're getting ready to launch a Court Watch program where we're going to actually be monitoring from a community level what exactly is happening in courtrooms in terms of bills that have just passed. We're decriminalizing traffic tickets, and at the same time, we're freeing people of their traffic tickets by paying off traffic tickets and also paying off warrants, bailing people out on traffic related issues, et cetera, et cetera. That's just a brief synopsis of the work that we do at the Mass Liberation Project. But what I really wanted to talk about today is a new initiative that we're engaged in. It's called Return Reclaim. And for those that might know me already, y'all know that I just went to Ghana, West Africa, which was in December of 2021. And that is actually an initiative with the Mass Liberation Project. So we took 13 directly impacted people to Ghana, including 2 impacted youth ages 15 and 21. And we also took 2 funders with us because it's important that people know that it's important to put money into invest into these type of programs that might not seem like they're related to mass incarceration, might not seem like they're related to Black liberation, but they in fact are, and really being able to demonstrate that through experience. And so the Return Reclaim, just to kind of give a broad overview, is the return part is our physical bodies actually being on the continent. And you have to understand, and this is why history is so important, but you have to understand that we were actually never meant to come back to the African continent, period. When we left the door of no return, which was the doors on the multiple slave castles that are all along the west coast of Africa, we were never expected to return again. And so there is power, and it is profound for us as descendants of enslaved people to actually step foot back on the continent, and one, just to be able to experience and walk the same paths that our ancestors walked. That is what we did. We went to the Cape Coast Castle, which is one of the most notorious slave castles in West Africa. There are over 150 slave castles all along the coast of West Africa. We went to the Cape Coast Castle. We were able to put our hands and our feet in the same place that our ancestors' hands and feet were. This is the same structure. It's the same flooring. So it's really being able to embody that political education and understand what it was our ancestors actually went through, while also returning our physical bodies to a place that is home and is deeply rooted in our DNA, whether we know it or not, and really being able to kind of close or I guess you could say rebuild that connection, that ancestral connection between us and the ancestors that were caught up in the transatlantic slave trade. So this is an initiative, and that's just the return part. The return piece is, like I said, our physical bodies actually returning to the continent. The reclaim portion of it is really rooted in, hold on, sorry, I gotta drink some water. The reclaim portion is really rooted in reclaiming our tradition, reclaiming our spirituality, reclaiming our music, reclaiming our rhythm, reclaiming our food, reclaiming our spirit, reclaiming our dance, reclaiming our steps, reclaiming our ancestors, reclaiming their tears. We have to pay homage to them. We have to honor them we're doing that by coming back. And we also are defying the oppressor who basically, they called it the door of no return because we were never meant to come back. So it's a really life-changing experience. I think on a DNA level and also just on a spiritual and emotional level. And it really was life-changing for every single person that was in attendance, including me. And so we're really wanting to expand that program, take a bigger group of youth this December, which is already in the works. And again, just exposing our young people to experiences that can be life-changing and really affirming them in their Blackness and using that, I guess, as a catalyst for change. Now, just briefly, I want to talk about the kind of more visible mass liberation work. Obviously, the Black Mamas Bailout. This is our 5th year bailing out Black mothers. We're gearing up now for that work. We will continue to focus on Black women, and that is because Black women are at the center of the community. And that's from a cultural standpoint and also just like a real standpoint. Usually Black women are the head of household. And so we are hyper focused on Black women. We're going to be doing our policy work, as Jerry mentioned, with the Dignity for Incarcerated Women bill that we're working on now to make sure that directly impacted people are centered in that conversation and trying to get ahead of the legislative session, trying to gear up for it now so that we are able to get our bill passed next year. We're still doing participatory defense work, which, if you don't know what that is, it's basically community organizing within the context of systems. So we do participatory defense on the front end through really helping people navigate their cases and get better outcomes in their cases. And that kind of coalesces with bail work. So we bail people out and then we help them work on their cases so that they can have a better outcome. And the whole concept behind it is care, not cages. So we're not just texting them, oh, go back to court. We're taking a step further and really being deeply involved and deeply invested in their well-being, their healing, their transformation, and their spiritual growth. We are still doing mutual aid work with the Vegas Freedom Fund. We're getting ready to expand that work as well. We're going to be launching a universal basic income initiative for the Black mamas that we bail out this May. And we're still engaging formerly incarcerated voters. And then we also have a C4, so we will be engaged in the district attorney's race here in Clark County, as well as some key judges races that are coming up for Clark County as well. If you want a little background just on that work, please go to our Facebook page. The Power of Justice 2 is a two and a half hour program that we produced, Mass Liberation Project, that really kind of encapsulated what we were looking for in judges. Most of the judges that were a part of that program did get elected and are on the bench now. So now we're trying to see what is the next step and figuring out what that accountability and continued collaboration with the community looks like. I'll pause there because there might be questions. And then if not, I'll pass it to whoever else is going to speak, and then we could circle back to me if needed.
Any questions for Leslie? You can just unmute and ask, or you can put them in the chat.
Leslie, this is Judge Peterson.
Thank you, Leslie.
Leslie, this is Judge Jessica Peterson. I was on your show and I wanted to say thank you. So, but I wanted to say, how can we help? What can we do to help right now?
I think the biggest thing is always going to be resources. When we're talking about Black folks, we're talking about Black people, we're talking about Black youth that are all impacted by the criminal justice system, as well as just, experiencing life challenges. Resources is always the best way to help out. As far as getting involved, we always need help from lawyers. We always are dealing with folks that are in some type of legal entanglement or situation. So we could always use help from attorneys. Maybe take a pro bono case. I don't know if that's possible now that you're on the bench, but even just tapping into our participatory defense meetings, or like I said, connecting us to people who have resources, understanding that the Return Reclaim Initiative, excuse me, the Return and Reclaim Initiative is, we're framing it as an alternative to incarceration for youth. So we're really trying to build out that program. We need more investors, and we really want to invest in youth in that particular and specific way, connecting back to Africa as a means of liberation. And it's really like liberation for all of us as Black people. But yeah, you can always email me, reach out, but I think the number one thing we need, obviously, is resources.
Leslie, would you put your email address in the chat?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you, Leslie. Can we come back to you if anybody has anything else for you too? It's okay?
Yep, I'll be here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Okay, so we are going to, Judge Bennett is not here yet, so we do really well improvising. So we are going to go to a few of the, since we're talking about Black history and the law, I saw some people, Senator Spearman, Assemblywoman Thomas, and Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. I feel like I saw all of you, so we are going to ask you to, if you could, just give us a few words and talk to us about your experience in legislation and what bills you have passed or are working on or have worked on that included, women, and up in this session or last session or coming up in session that have to do with our African-American women. Or I know Assemblywoman Thomas had a few bills. I know Senator Spearman had something. I will mute whoever wants to go first.
Well, Senator Spearman is on, so, senior, you should go first.
Senator Spearman, you're up first.
No, I defer.
All right, she won't reclaim. I'm Assemblywoman Clara Thomas, and I appreciate this time to, talk about Black history, being that today is our last recognized day, the shortest month of the year. I'm just putting that out there, that we recognize Black history, that every day is Black history, because there are things that we know that our ancestors have contributed to the making of the United States of America. Every time as a child, I found something new that I didn't know. It gave me a sense of pride. Just simple things like the pencil, a Black man. Traffic signals, a Black man. Those common things that we take for granted. The building of the White House, Black men, slaves. So in the sense, I am extremely proud to be a Black woman in this day and age, because of the things that I know that I can say I represent. And by me standing on the shoulders of the ones that came before me, I feel that that is something that I can take to my grandchildren and have them have a sense of pride. And I say this, to everyone that's on this call. Growing up, my family moved into an all-white neighborhood. And at the age of 9, I recall being in the 5th grade and being asked about my heritage. Where do you come from? So I'm thinking, well, America. And they, no. Where's your ancestors from? And then, of course, we got the teasing. I say we, meaning me. I was the only Black kid in my 5th grade class. And I didn't understand because we never talked about it in my family. And then I heard all the other kids talking about, their ancestors from Ireland and Germany and, Poland and all these countries. And I'm like, wow. And one of the kids said, you're from Africa. And, at that time, National Geographic, they would have, these pictures of Africans running around, women without tops on, and they made it sound like I was to be ashamed. And they meant that. I was to be ashamed. I was called, my last name was King, so it was King Kong. I was called, these chocolate candies, chocolate babies, so any slight. They never called me the N-word, though, never did. But this is what has made me who I am. And growing up that way, I was interested in knowing about my ancestors. And my mother took us to the library so that we could find out about our history. That we came from kings and queens. There was nothing to be ashamed of. Our heritage was sound. The things that were created, we contributed to. And I feel like I can pass that on to my grands and they'll be able to pass it on to theirs. So when I run for election, I'm standing on the shoulders of people that got me here. I am so proud to be a representative of a very diverse community in beautiful North Las Vegas. And I think that just knowing that the work that I've done up at Carson, I have a bill, 3 bills that the governor signed into law. Assembly Bill 119, which is a maternal mortality bill, and it addresses women of color to include Black women, brown women, indigenous women, because we've been slighted. And we have to change that. We have to find out why we are dying at record rates. It shouldn't happen. So we're trying to find out why and have people accountable. Also, Assembly Bill 343 and Assembly Bill 344, all of these bills that I had the privilege of sponsoring are community, because I am someone that believes in our community, because that's how I was raised, to think of others, to make it better for others. And when you make it better for others, you make it better for yourself and your grandkids. So yes, I am fortunate to be among some great people in our community. You know, I can say kudos to BTH, because there's this word that, you know, we all know that there's nothing in our vocabulary that we can say can't. It's always I can. She's an inspiration. There's so many other women on here that are inspirational to me. Dr.
Love you, Claire.
Reverend,
I just love you so much. Okay,
Dr. Pat Spearman, you know, Senator Spearman, love her. I'm glad I spoke before her, but, you know, just saying that, I'll throw that out there. My BFF, Michelle Miesa, you know, I'm so proud that she is, you know, all of these first Black woman, first, you know, I'm just so excited that we have first in this community, and we need to appreciate that, and we need to talk about our own narrative. Our narrative is that we matter. And I'm going to just leave you with this. You know, there's something that I read in The Color Purple. And they asked, what does the color purple mean? And I kind of think about it. It's when we think about, when we walk down the street and we see a Black person, do we you know, walk across the street and ignore that person? The color purple kind of relates to that the Lord would be extremely upset when we walk past a field of purple and we didn't acknowledge the beauty of that purple. So that's how I feel about our people. To ignore our people who contributed so many great things, not only in this country, but this community. So thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Claire. We love you. Senator Spearman, that's your cue.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, thanks for inviting me. This has been awesome. And I don't think I missed it. My computer actually turned it off for a minute or two. But I don't know. We heard a lot about the accomplishments of Belinda Harrison. Let me tell you something. She is a force to be reckoned with. You just got a little bit of who she is tonight, but she is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And Judge Karen, I can't say enough about her. I met her father before I met her when I first moved to North Las Vegas after I retired. So I am just honored to be in their presence. I put a couple of bills in the chat so that you could take a look at them. Most people know me for my renewable energy bills, and that's because that was my focus when I worked on my doctoral degree. But I've also worked a great deal on what I call some common sense legislation to help folks. One of them is in 2019, Assemblywoman Krasner and I, it was bipartisan and bicameral, sponsored a bill that did get passed that basically says when DNA is involved in identifying the perpetrator, then there is no statute of limitations for sexual assault crimes. And I felt that that was important because most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, people who are victims of sexual assault are women. And many times, you know, it's you have to go and you have to prove that you weren't at fault. And so that was important to me. Also sponsored a bill with Senator Woodhouse that designated a fund, to create a fund to help former service members who had been victims of military sexual trauma. And that's very important. That's something that we don't talk a lot about. And I had an opportunity, I had about 3 minutes to speak to the vice president on Wednesday when we were up there talking about voting rights. And I just reminded her of our conversation when she was running for president, where she promised to help us do some things for women who were experiencing military sexual trauma. Their lives are in shambles, and we've not really done a whole lot. And these are the people that also need some place to stay. Then there's another bill that requires, people worked hard on the star rating, so I didn't want to mess with that. But I did feel like, and still do feel like, it's important to understand why a school is rated at 2 stars or 3 stars, and what some of the social determinants are around that neighborhood. And we very seldom see that taken into consideration. And so most of the 2 and 3 star schools are in areas where there is high poverty, high crime. Many times it's also in an area where there's a lot of substance abuse. And that just doesn't mean in Black neighborhoods, but that's because we know that opioids took over this state, for almost 10 years. And so I think it was Senate Bill 266 or 67, something like that. But it requires the superintendent, state superintendent of education, to put an extra column there. So they have to talk about how many food deserts are around that school. How many grocery stores? What's the crime rate? Because in some of the children that are rescued from sex trafficking, many times will go into a facility that is close to that. And so I wanted that to happen because in many of those schools, you have teachers who chose to be there. They want to be there because they want to make a difference in children's lives. But constantly having a school that has 2 or 3 stars, and people say, well, they're a low performing school. And I tell them, listen, if you have kids in kindergarten who haven't eaten since Thursday, I don't care how many master teachers you put in front of them, they can't learn. Okay. And so you have to acknowledge that. And so that was the purpose of that bill. The other bill that I had was actually one that was brought to me by my youth legislator. And I always forget the number, but it is the one that requires schools to develop a program to identify suicide ideation. I think some of you all might have heard this morning, I woke up to the sad news about the middle schooler at Sedway Junior High, and that's real. We have students who feel abandoned, who feel like they have no place to go, nobody to talk to, and for whatever the reason, they feel like they have to take a permanent solution to what we know as adults as a temporary problem. So that bill was sponsored. I sponsored it, but my youth legislator brought it to me, and he testified. The day that we testified before the Committee on Education was actually a year to the day that he had written his suicide note. And he started off reading, he started his testimony reading his suicide note, and said, if my mother hadn't come up there and found me, then I wouldn't be here today. And at the time that he wrote it, he was 16. And so people needed to understand that. Embedded in that was also a part that acknowledges that, students who are members of the LGBTQ community are 4 times more likely to consider suicide and to complete suicide. And so we have to make sure that we are telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that is the whole truth and nothing but the truth right there. So I was really glad to carry that bill. The very first bill that I carried and Judge Sandoval signed was a bill to add transgender persons to hate crime statutes. And I did that because when I was a pastor, I had several trans people in my congregation, and they were always coming to me talking about how they had been either physically abused, someone would steal something from them, someone would, say, well, give me this money and I'll give you that. And it would never happen. And they were always afraid to go to law enforcement because they didn't feel like they were going to be heard, or worse yet, they were going to be mistreated again. So we got that passed in 2013. And so adding transgender persons to the hate crime statute means that there are enhanced penalties when you do things and it is a part of a hate crime. Last session, we got passed a bill that I've been working on since 2017, And that was a bill that created the individual development accounts. Individual development accounts are for people who are in situations where they are receiving some type of public assistance. And one of the things that I think is cray-cray is that people who are on public assistance can't have a savings account. I mean, that's about as dumb as somebody walking into a computer lab and saying, turn the water on, right? It doesn't make any sense, because if you can't have a savings account, then you can never get out of that perpetual generational poverty. And so the individual development account was created for people who are in those situations, many of whom are women. And the individual development account is separate from what can be counted against their income. It is separate, apart from, they can contribute to it, somebody else can contribute to it, organizations can contribute to it, but it's designed for people to be able to save for a house, to purchase a home, save to start a small business, save to pay off debt that's keeping them from purchasing a house. And the other category that it's good for are for children who grow up in the foster care system. Unless they have been adopted by a family and or have other members of their biological family that they can go to at 12:01 the day of their birthday, the night after their birthday, they're out of the system. They have no place to go. I mean, nothing to do. And that too is cray-cray. So for children in foster care, they can now, and or their foster parents can establish an individual development account. And you do that through the treasurer's office. It's not an ATM. Excuse me, it's not an ATM. They have to say when they start that account what they're saving for. And you can't put money in and take money out. It's put in specifically for those reasons. And I'm really hoping and praying that will make a huge difference when it comes to establish, especially taking away some of the stigma that people who are in situations where they depend upon public service. They're before the grace of God. And I'll say this to you, when I was a kid, we had food stamps too. And we had food stamps, and before food stamps, you had government cheese and government eggs and that sort of thing. So, all of that is a part of my history, and I know what it felt like, and I'm just trying to give back. Last but not least, I'll say that there was a bill, and many of you who are on the call helped me get that across the finish line, and that was the pay equity bill. We started that in 2015, and the folks on the other side of the aisle control both houses, and so it was never heard. But I was able to bring it back in 2017, make it a little bit better, and it passed out of both houses, but the governor vetoed it. So in 2019, brought it back again. This is one of the things that people have to understand about women. Once we decide we're going to do something, we will not be deterred. You get out of our way, we will not be deterred. And so we brought it back in 2019, and we're able to get, I think it was Senate Bill 166, able to get that passed. Now here's one of the real good things, a couple of good things about that bill. And all the time, I don't say everything that's in the bill because I need it to pass. And I know everybody is not going to do like I do and like some of the other legislators and read the whole bill. And so one of the things that's in there that I think is important for especially women to know, and that is sometimes you're paid less than your male counterpart for no other reason than you're a woman. And so the way that the federal law is written, it goes, you can go back 2 years to get back pay. Well, in 166, I made sure that the clock starts over every time anybody in that company receives a paycheck. So the 2 years is never over, if you understand what I'm saying. It also means that if they are found, the company is found guilty of paying you separately or differently because of your gender, it also means that they have to give you not just back pay, but they have to give you your 401k. They have to give you your vacation pay, whatever. If you sold vacation and you sold it at $20 an hour and you should have been making $40 an hour, they have to give you that $20 an hour difference. They also have to give you back the FICA, what you put in for Social Security. And all of those things are multiplied by the highest interest in the state. on the day that NERC says you won this. And I needed to do that because it's not just the back pay that women miss, but it's all those other things that they miss. And there's also a tier system, TIER, a tier system for companies who can't get it. They don't understand you can't do this. You cannot do this in Nevada. So the first time you do it, it's $5,000 fine. Second time, $10,000. Second time, $15,000. And many of the people focused on that tier system and didn't focus on, when the clock starts and when it stops. And so I let them continue focusing on that. We pulled it down from 25,000, which was the top level, pulled it down to 15. So if you know anyone who suspects that they are being paid differently, please ask them to call NERC, the Nevada Equal Rights Commission, and just check it out. Just check it out. Sometimes companies will want to settle and they'll want to settle quicker because of everything that's in that bill, and they know that they can settle. It may be less than what it would be if they don't settle. So those are just a couple of things. And I think, for me, when I got to the legislature, I ran and wanted to win because I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to take my lived experience and put that to work in the legislature. And it is my hope and my prayer that I have done that and have done that well. And I will take that same tenacity with me to the office of mayor for North Las Vegas. Trust me, they're not ready for me, but trust me, we're going to do this.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions for Senator Spearman before she goes?
When are you running?
Assemblywoman.
When are you
That's
running?
A question. Okay.
Pat Spearman, when are you running for mayor?
I'm running. The race is on right now.
Okay.
It's on right now, and we're on the same cycle as the midterms and the presidential election. So the primary is 14th of June, and then the general election is, I believe, the 8th of November. So patspearman.com, go there and you can find out all about me. And if you want to put some coins in there, there's a place for you to do that too.
Okay, thank you.
Chat too.
And she is,
all right, thank you.
We
so
already
much.
came out with her as one of our endorsed candidates. That happened today.
One of our first 10. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. That was amazing. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, are you here?
I am. Good evening. How is everybody?
Good evening. Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much. I'm going to put myself.
Well, hello, everybody. It's getting kind of late, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time, but I'm going to say that I have certainly enjoyed everything that I've heard so far. I had some connection issues, but had to log off and log back in. But just wonderful to see your faces and very proud to be present tonight with these magnificent Black women leaders and trailblazers. It's just wonderful to hear. It's funny that you have both Belinda and Judge Harris, excuse me, I'm auntie, so sometimes I forget. Judge Harris and Judge Bennett on tonight, and then juxtapose that with Miss Leslie from MassLib, and you see the need for advocacy in all areas. And I think that that's really critical for us today and going forward. Got to hear Senator Spearman, always inspirational. My dear friend Claire, Assemblywoman Thomas, always inspirational as well. And I won't take a lot of time, but I'll just tell you this. In 1920, the year of our Lord, in Pine Bluff, Louisiana, a young lady by the name of Octavia Naomia Sanders was a 17-year-old student at Branch Normal College in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Branch Normal is a land grant school for Black teachers. to make Black teachers, to raise them up and train them. And that young woman, Octavia Naomia Sanders, was my grandmother. And she went to this segregated school. And in the 1920 census, when they counted up all the students, instead of naming those beautiful Black children as students, they classified them as inmates. Inmates. A lot of people are talking these days about critical race theory and all this foolishness. And what I want to say to you is, we don't need to be distracted by the desire of this nation, our young people, people from every ethnic background. People want to know the truth about the history of this country. And they deserve to know and hear the full truth. And the full truth is not beautiful. It has some shining moments and some people with some grand ideals, but those ideals also have to be taken with levity, and the ideals have to be balanced with the truth. And the truth is that the people who had these grand ideals for this country also balance that desire with hurting and enslaving others and mistreating others. And we got to talk about it so that we can move forward and be honest about who we are as a country. My grandmother, who I love dearly, died in 1996 at the age of 96, was that girl who was the only child in her family of 5 to be able to go to college, whose father chose to send a daughter instead of a son. And you can imagine the kind of hell she got from her siblings because she was the one who was chosen. And then she ended up getting married and still lived in poverty because back then you didn't always get to teach if you were married, and her licensure wasn't acknowledged in California. And so this speaks to the need for women, us as women, to advocate for legislation that ensures that our daughters have access to education so that they can be independent and not victims of domestic violence and generational poverty. That we have to encourage one another, to lift one another up, to empower one another to seek education and training so that we can move forward. It doesn't mean that we're not supportive of our men. I see Mr. Ketter on, and I see another young man, Mr. King on. It's not that we don't love you, but we also know that when we don't have a way to take care of ourselves, we become victims and we become in bad situations often, and we are left in a disadvantage because the way this system has been built is built that way. So I'm happy to be here. You're looking at a heck of a proud Black woman. You will never, ever have to ask me about how I feel about myself. I'm proud of where I came from, the strong, amazing women who not only birthed me, but gave me the confidence to walk with my head up in an environment that is not always hospitable towards me, but who've taught me that I have to own the space that I occupy and that I have to be confident in who I am, that I serve a wonderful and wonderful and gracious God who has given me all this stuff and placed me in a place where I can do good in my community, and I do it without apology. And I'm just grateful to be here, and I'm really happy to see you all.
That was excellent. Thank
We
you.
love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, that was awesome.
I'm sorry, Michelle, what?
Oh, I just said that was wonderful. We're all so full right now. I know that. I know that we are all so full. Thank you so much.
Very, very much so. I can hardly see the screen. It seems that Judge Bennett Herron may have had a conflict for this evening. So, so I apologize. We'll try to have her back on a future program, because she, as everybody has said, she is amazing. But so are everybody that has spoken tonight. I can't possibly thank all of you enough. Judge Harris, Leslie Turner, and Claire Thomas, Pat Spearman, and Shonda Summers Armstrong. Thanks for punting with us. Truly appreciate it.